Canto 3. A brief outline of the Ramayan was given by the poet himself. Having heard from Narad as aforesaid the entire theme of the poem to be composed by him, promising religious merit and worldly prosperity to its readers and the healers, and conferring supreme benefit in the shape of final beatitude, Valmiki sought to discover directly through intuition a detailed life account of that sagacious prince. Sipping water as a purificatory rite according to the scriptural ordinance, and taking his seat with folded hands on the blades of kusha grass with their ends pointing to the east, the sage sought to discover the exploits of Sri Ram through yogic power conferred on him by Brahma. By dint of that yogic power, he was able to perceive directly and clearly in reality every detail in that state of absorption, all that pertained to Sri Ram, Lakshman and Sita, as well as to Emperor Dashrath, along with his wives and kingdom, how they laughed and talked and moved and whatever they did. Likewise, he further directly perceived in order of sequence all that was enacted by Sri Ram while roaming about in the forest in the company of Lakshman and Sita, true to his promise. Absorbed in deep meditation, that pious sage thereby saw as clearly as one would see a myrobalan placed in one's palm all that had happened in the past in relation to Sri Ram, Lakshman and Sita, as well as that which still awaited them. Having seen all that in reality by dint of yogic power, Valmiki, who was possessed of great wisdom, girded up his loins to render into verse the whole story of Sri Ram, the delighter of all. The glorious sage Valmiki composed in verse, as it was told earlier by the high souled Narad, the story of Sri Ram, which discusses in a secondary way the subjects of kama, that is, sense enjoyment and worldly prosperity, and expatiates on the merits of the two objects of human pursuit, viz., piety and final beatitude, and thus, full of jewels like the ocean, attracts the ears as well as the mind of all the musical ring of its verses and the profundity of their meaning respectively. The advent of Sri Ram, his superlative prowess, benevolence to all, universal popularity, forgiveness, amiability, and the habit of speaking the truth. Many other wondrous episodes, example, the one relating to the descent of the holy Ganga, told by Vishwamitra in the course of his journey with the sage Vishwamitra, first to the latter's hermitage and then to Mithila, in order to attend the selection of a husband by the princes of Mithila in an assembly of suitors, his breaking the vow kept by the king of Mithila in an arena in order to test the suitors' prowess, and the wedding of Sita, Janak's daughter, and others, Urmila, and so on. In the vexed dialogue between Sri Ram and Parshuram over the breaking of the bow, the description of the extraordinary virtues of Sri Ram, son of Dashrath, preparations for Sri Ram's installation as the regent of Ayodhya, and the treachery of Kaikai. Interruption of the installation caused by Kaikai and Sri Ram's exile to the forest, the king's grief and lament, and eventual departure to the other world, the grief of the people of Ayodhya, and how those who followed him to the forest were made to return by being put off the scent, his dialogue with the chief of the Nishads, and how the charioteer who took Sri Ram, Sita, and Lakshman in a chariot to the forest under the king's command was sent back by Sri Ram after his meeting with the Nishad chief, how he ferried across the Ganga and called on the sage Bharadwaj, and his going to Chitrakoot on the latter's instruction, his erection of a leaf-thatched hut at Chitrakoot, and taking up his residence there along with his spouse and younger brother the arrival of Bharat and how he tried to persuade Sri Ram to return to Ayodhya and accept his rightful heritage in the shape of the throne of Ayodhya, and how Sri Ram offered water to the spirit of his deceased father as his last obsequies to the latter. How Bharat, installed on the throne of Ayodhya as the symbol of Sri Ram, the preeminent wooden sandals that had the unique honor of being used by the divine Sri Ram and had been given by the latter to Bharat as a token of his affection and regard for his younger brother, and took up his residence at Nandigram, now a lonely retreat 14 miles away from Ayodhya. Ram's departure to the forest of Dandak for fear of being approached every now and then by the people of Ayodhya, now that they had come to know of his being there, and his killing the ogre Viradha. His visit to the sage Sarabhanga and the meeting with Sutikshana, the pupil of the illustrious sage Agastya, Sita's meeting with Anushya, the wife of the great sage Atri, and the latter's offering of sandal paste, etc., to the former as a gesture of goodwill. So, अभी क्या हुआ कि ब्रह्मा जी चले जाने के बाद फिर से ऋषि जो है वो कुश के आसन पे बैठ के उन्होंने ध्यान लगाया। ध्यान लगाने से उनके सामने, क्योंकि उनको आशीर्वाद मिला था ब्रह्मा जी का, इसकी वजह से उनको पूरा घटना श्री राम जी का पूरे जीवन के घटना उनके सामने आ गया, आंखों के सामने आ गया, और उन्होंने जो घटना घट चुकी थी वो भी देखा, जो राजा दशरथ के और उनकी रानियों का था, और जो घटना अभी अभी घट रहा था वो भी उन्होंने देखा, और जो भविष्य में घटने वाला था वो भी उन्होंने देखा, और उसमें उन्होंने वही देखा जो नारद ने उनको संक्षेप में बताया था। तो उन्होंने देखा कैसे राम जी का जन्म होता है, कैसे दशरथ जी उनको राजा बनाने की इच्छा रखते हैं, कैसे वो बड़े होते हैं, और फिर वो उनको वाल्मीकि जी लेके जाते हैं, ऋषि वाल्मीकि के साथ वो जाते हैं, और वहाँ जाने के बाद वो कैसे मिथिला में उनकी शादी होती है, शादी के बाद चारों भाई वापस आते हैं, और वापस आने के बाद उनको उनकी राज्य अभिषेक होने वाला था। तब क्या हुआ, तब उस वक्त कैकेयी माता ने अपना वरदान याद दिलाया और उन्होंने राम जी का वनवास का आज्ञा उन्होंने दशरथ जी से करवा दिया, और राम जी उन्होंने आज्ञा पालन करके वो चले गए वन में, और वन में जाने के बाद वो ऋषियों से मिले, और फिर उन्होंने वहाँ पे जब उन्होंने देखा कि चित्रकूट में अयोध्या के लोग आने लगे, भरत जी आए उनको वापस लेने के लिए, वो वापस नहीं गए, तो उस वक्त में उन्होंने अपना कुटी चित्रकूट से हटा के वो दंडक वन में चले गए। वहाँ जाने के बाद उन्होंने वहाँ पे राक्षसों के साथ युद्ध किया और वन को राक्षसों से मुक्त किया। यहाँ तक का आज के लिए, और कल इसके आगे पढ़ के और समझा भी दूँगी, हिंदी में ट्रांसलेशन भी करके दूँगी। नमस्कार।